What's up, guys? It is October 1st. Just want to go over a couple of the trades today, kind of just explain why I bought into them and whatnot, and kind of just what's going on. First up, we'll talk about CERE, C-E-R-E. This is one that was actually on the watch list as a potential buy here for quite a bit. As you can see over here on the watch list, this was actually the first stock on our watch list. So it is so important that you guys are watching the watch list, because so many of my trades come directly from the watch list. You know, that's the easiest way to make money in the stock market, is by being prepared, creating the watch list, or looking at my watch list and identifying these patterns and actually being able to understand these patterns. Because, you know, a lot of times if you're, falling behind me, then you might be chasing a stock. As I'm buying into breakouts, sometimes, it's a lot easier for you to follow what I'm doing if we're on the same page and you're looking at the watch list. And, a lot of times I mention these stocks in the chat room saying, hey, check out CERE, as I did today. This is a potential breakout off the watch list. So I give you the heads up on the watch list, also giving you the heads up in the chat room that I'm looking at it as a potential buy, and then I usually typically buy, and then all of a sudden the stock spikes up, and then some people complain about, oh, I missed it, or you got to be prepared and either get in with me, get in before me, or get in right after me, rather than saying you missed the whole trade because you were unprepared. If you want to make money in the stock market, you got to be prepared. You got to know exactly what you're doing. You got to be confident in what you're doing. And you got to understand trading. You can't just come and sign up and click buttons and start making money. You got to understand what's going on here. But anyways, let's look at CERE, C-E-R-E, why I bought into this. Basically, this is a revival pattern. As you can see, the lead-in trend is obviously bearish here. And then we started kind of basing out here and started forming up this triangle pattern, where we can kind of started, having this spike out in these resistance areas on CERE, with these highs around 169, 167, over here 168. So we're sitting right at the major resistance level of these last two peaks, but I was basically kind of buying into the breakout over this high of day right here, but more importantly, looking over here kind of at the F1 breakout that happened today. At first, we actually did have a red to green move that triggered at about 146. Then we had another little flag breakout here on CERE at about 151. I didn't get in until about 154 for my initial position. I got in a little bit late. I was looking at this stock right here. It was breaking out at 152 or so right here. And then I started buying in right here at 154 is when I got in, right when this big volume spike came in. As I was anticipating that the daily chart was going to hit and actually break out. But I was also watching this intraday trigger to buy into. I always, typically, my buying, my pinpoint buys usually come from looking at the intraday charts over here, and I'm trying to buy into the trigger that's going to break out on the daily chart. So I try to kind of anticipate what's going to happen on the daily chart by getting in early by playing the shorter term intraday charts here. From there, we got that little quick spike up here. This is the 1 minute chart over here. We did get that kind of a big sell-off here, but we started forming up another pattern into the close, which looked like a potential F3 if we started to break out. I actually bought more of CERE at 156, as it looked like we were spiking here. We see this nice little spikes in volume coming in here. I got 2,500 shares more at 156, now is 7,500 shares long, and then actually once we broke highs of the day, I added it again at 161 for another 2,500 shares. So now I'm long 10,000 shares with a strong close like this into the close that typically is a sign of a potential gap into tomorrow's opening price. You can see here, kind of confused about this closing price. I thought it was 167 earlier, and now it's saying 165. But there were sales going in through at 170 and 169 after hours. So we're already potentially spiking and gapping into tomorrow just based off of the after hours price action. Hopefully we can see a continuation above this these all-time highs of this recent revival pattern over 170 into the open. We actually get a spike up. Short-term target here is going to be the next whole number resistance, as always, which is about $2 per share. Hopefully we can see that happen. On CERE, we finally spiked nicely above the 50-day moving average today. Nice volume spike as well. So CERE looking strong, right off the watch list. Perfect play. Can't complain with this as of right now. Next up, we are looking at GSAT. This is one, what I make. I made $1,500 on this. You know, not a huge trade. I wasn't super stoked about it. I actually got stopped out early near the lows of the day. Or not near lows of the day, but near lows of this intraday pullback. I actually sold it about 111. I got stopped out looking like it was a potential false break. I played it safe. You know, I was up about 2,500 up here, and I sold at 111 down here, looking like it was potentially breaking down. I didn't want to give any of my profits back, as I haven't, you know, been making any huge trades this past week or so. I wanted to be able to lock in, you know, a quick $1,500 at least on GSAT. So I sold. It did bounce right off those lows. It hit 110, and that was the low of the day. And now we're back at 115. So huge momentum still going here. Remember, this was a force pattern slash gold that I bought into initially at 64 cents, and we just absolutely killed it. It ripped about 30-something% that one day that I bought into, and now it's still grinding the 13 EMA. Broke down the 13 EMA just slightly here, and I actually bought back in that day when it bounced off that 13 EMA. Back at 1, I stopped out for about $100 loss, and then I got right back in when it broke out above that $1 area again. Continued adding up. Even I added again to this morning at 114 when I was trying to buy into this F1 breakout pattern here on, where's my drawing tools? They are missing somewhere. But I was trying to buy into this F1 breakout at 114 here. Unfortunately, it quickly failed. And that's when I kind of decided, okay, maybe I'll get out of this position because the F1 pattern failed, and I didn't want to give back more profits. So I got out. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of times you get stopped down on intraday swings, especially with small little penny stocks like this, and it closed strong at 115. So if you're still long, this stock chart's still looking very, very bullish, still right in 13 EMA trend. So congrats if you're still long. This could all of a sudden just explode here. Its momentum is still very high on this stock, and actually had an increase in volume today over the past week. So GSAT still looking strong for you guys who are still in. You know, nice little trade, made $1,500. MTSN, another big winner here today for us. This thing ripped 13%. Basically, what I got into here was a potential force pattern here. All right, I need to find my drawing tools. There they are. Basically, I was buying into this breakout here. We had a nice triangle formation here. Remember, we bought into this stock way back in about 150-ish here on this other little triangle pattern breakout. Things got a little crazy. As you can see here, these crazy like spikes that came all the way down. I got stopped out a few times trying to get back into this, but actually made a huge run from about 150 up to 250. It was just a very choppy run. That was just too difficult for me to try to swing trade or day trade. So I never really got back into the stock until today, when I actually traded the F1 pattern breakout right out of the gates this morning, which led to the daily chart breakout. So if we look back here and get rid of all these drawings on MTSN, I bought it at 248 here. So right out of the gates here this morning, I was watching this stock. We had this nice big spike up on volumes. That's, you know, typically the first stage of an F1 pattern. You want to see a big spike on volume and price action on the intraday chart. We're looking at the 1 minute chart right at the open. So the opening price was right here, and we got this big spike in volume and price action. From there, you want to see a consolidation in which it consolidates, potentially retests the 13 EMA on the 1 minute chart, which it did right here. This is a pretty low volume stock, so as you can see, just the candles kind of look funky. And then all of a sudden I bought right back in here, or I bought in at 248. There was a little bit of, you know, some sellers at the ask of 248, and I participated in taking out that ask, which led to the actual breakout here on MTSN. Wasn't a huge position. I only got 5,000 shares long because the stock was a little bit thin, and we were also buying into the momentum, but it did break that F1 right at 248. From there, this thing just continued to rip it up all day long. I sold, where did I sell at? I sold partial at 260 and partial at 269. So I made $800 on MTSN. You know, I was in with a fairly small position for me. But this was a great pattern here of combining the buying into the F1 intraday breakout at 248, but also looking at the actual daily chart for the FUS4 pattern. So it's very important that you're combining both the intraday and the daily charts together. What else do we got here? I believe that's about it. RVLT, just to give you an example of a great looking F1 pattern. This was, I think, today's biggest gainer. 50% rally today. Unfortunately, I did not buy into this, but Trickster, I don't know how to pronounce whatever his name is, Trickster, in chat pointed out the F1 pattern here this morning right out of the gates. I pointed out as well, saying, hey, yeah, that definitely looks like a potential rip here. Target's going to easily be towards 3, and actually ran all the way up near $4 per share, up to $3.94 today on the highs. But looking at the F1 pattern breakout here this morning, perfect F1 breakout pattern here. Got the nice spike, actually gap open on volume. Hit a little bit of a high here, started flagging, came back down and retested the 1 minute chart 13 EMA. As soon as that triggered and broke over 273, look what happens here. Boom, huge volume spike. There's the F1 pattern breakout. Also, decent looking potential short-term revival pattern on the daily chart over here. And after that broke and triggered, this thing just continued to grind up all day long here, all the way up to $4 per share. So it could have been a huge trade there, on RVLT. We sat there and called it within the first 6 minutes of the open. I'm saying, hey, check out this F1 pattern. But, if you're not there to just pull the trigger right when you need to, it's very easy to miss it. And then once it goes, I don't like to chase stocks. So, if you're not there to just pull the trigger right out of the gates, it's very easy to miss these plays. Unfortunately, I missed RVLT. I wouldn't even have held up all the way up to right up here at 4. I probably would have sold towards $3 per share, just playing it safe and locking my profits. But great call there by Trickster. Unfortunately, he didn't get in it either, but he identified the pattern. And so it's I love to see people learning and actually being able to identify these F1 patterns and calling them out in chat rather than me just trying to make calls. So I love to see people starting to understand this stuff. And be able to contribute to the chat room, because that's what the chat room is for everyone to collaborate together and try to make money. But anyways, that's it for today's video lesson. Hopefully you guys learned something valuable, and I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning.